Well, I am going to start, and you are welcome to start with me, or you may continue just buzzing amongst yourselves. We'll give a few moments for the folks at the back to settle in as well. This is the informal part of our gathering. The gathering begins when you come into the door and you greet one another with words of, "How are you? And what do you think about the snow? And shouldn't the grass be green on St. Patrick's Day?" But I took comfort this morning because there's a text that says, "Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as." So it must be a blessing. Welcome here this morning. It's nice for me to be here with you again. Every once in a while I get to stand in Carolyn's boots. It's always a good feeling because I admire Carolyn, and I think she's got big boots to fill. She's got quite the spirit in her, and I'm always touched by her presence. But it's nice to allow her a bit of time to be with her family and do the kinds of things that help her to stay healthy and well so that she can serve you in the best possible way. It's Sunday morning. We've gathered to worship, and I think generally you begin here by sharing a little bit with one another, some announcements, the kinds of things that are going on, maybe celebration. So let's start maybe if anybody has an announcement to share this morning. I'm going to, at this point, just light this little light, and you folks know, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. We are now in what is called the season of Lent, and in that season we follow the teacher Jesus as he makes his way towards Jerusalem, where he is going to meet an untimely end. And as we walk through our own experiences of darkness, we are mindful that by his willingness to make that journey and to pay that price, we have been given a great insight about the meaning of our life and experience. And that insight is present within us as the Spirit of Christ. So wherever we walk, through whatever circumstances, we may have this assurance: God is with us. We are not alone. And then you could say, thanks be to God. Amen. I have decided this morning that I would like to sort of pick up the theme of practice. And practice is something that you do over and over and over again. And I'd like to spend a few moments with you learning a song. And I suspect that you may not know this song. And some of you will remember the name John Wesley. And John Wesley was a great educator. That is to say, he would go out among the working people, and they were often suffering many misfortunes, and he would use strategies to help them to become conscious of their situation and become aware of the kinds of resources that they might bring to those situations in the hope of remedy. And John Wesley didn't have computers or hymn books or anything. He rode around on a horse sometimes. He'd stop in villages and gather people and sing with them. And he had a method which was called lining. And lining would be something like this: I'll say a phrase, and you will repeat it to me. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. There is peace. There is peace. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. There is joy. There is joy. I will linger. I will linger. I will stay. I will stay. In God's presence. In God's presence. Day by day. Day by day. Till love's likeness. Till love's likeness. May be seen. May be seen. In me. In me. So we did that very well. It was quite easy. Now this is where the practice comes in, because I'm going to try to add a little bit of music to it. So let's try it again just in this echo pattern. And we may make mistakes, because when you practice anything new, you often make mistakes. I'm going to talk to Ethan a bit about that after when he comes forward. So we're going to try it, and we're not going to be embarrassed about our mistakes. We're simply going to be moving forward, trusting that with practice, we will overcome our mistakes in time. So you just echo again. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. There is peace. There is peace. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. In God's presence. There is joy. There is joy. tie it all together? Do you have the words basically and stuff? See how clever Mr. Rusty was? He simply repeated the simple phrases, and over time, they become part of your experience. I've worked a lot with elderly people in the hospital and often with Alzheimer's and such, and it's remarkable to me, these songs and prayers that they pray throughout their whole life, when you stand beside the deathbed and you say, "The Lord is my shepherd," you begin to see a small flicker of recognition, and these deep, comforting words begin to come forward. So these songs that we learn together are good medicine for the troubles that come against us in life. Let's try it. In God's presence, there is peace. In God's presence, there is joy. I will linger, I will stay in God's presence, day by day, till love's likeness may be seen in me. Let's take it as a prayer. In God's presence, there is peace. In God's presence, there is joy. I will linger, I will stay in God's presence, day by day, till love's likeness may be seen in me. Thank you very much. That's a small exercise, but I want to encourage you to choose favorite songs, and in times of darkness and trouble, practice letting those songs rise up in you, and by that rising up, to displace the challenges that face you. We're going to say a prayer together, a prayer of approach, where we enter into that presence consciously. It's Psalm 122, and it's found on 845. Wolf, is it okay to do this refrain? We try the refrain together. I was glad when they said to me, "And now our feet are standing within your gates, O Jerusalem." Jerusalem is built as a city bound firmly together. There the tribes go up, the tribes of God, to give thanks to the name of God, as was decreed for Israel. There the thrones of justice stand, the thrones of David's house. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. May there be peace within your walls, prosperity within your houses. For the sake of my kin and friends, I say, peace be with you. For the sake of the house of our God, I will seek your good. Going to enter with a song. We're going to sing Worship the Lord, number 401. It's an interesting thing about raising your hands. The rabbis used to speak about our worries and our cares, but they were like little pillows. We tucked them in here and we held them tight. Any of you who have ever worried know that stress tends to get located in this part of your body. And when lifting your hands, of course, those little pillows fall to the floor. So it's an act of release of the worries and cares of the world. So thank you for singing that song. I trust you would have felt some sense of relief. Here we are, Ethan. This is the moment I ask you if you'd be willing to come up and spend some time with me. Will you? Thank you. you folks just daydream or whatever you like. Now, listen, you might learn something from this fellow. I've been learning something from him. When we were just puttering around here in the beginning, you can come sit too. Sure. What's your name? Gemma? Gemma. Yeah, I've already learned something from Ethan. Gemma. Anyway, she will do just as she wishes, I'm sure. Ethan, when I was just puttering about here, was over there on the keyboard. He had figured out how to turn it on, and he was keying in a small melody. And as he was keying, his finger would go beep, 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 beep. Do you know what he did then? Not quite, right? I think more like, oh, what is that noise? Is that about right? Do you play the piano? Do you play any musical instrument? A violin? And have you been playing it for a little while? The starting of this year, a beginner. Well, that's perfect. Because in about 1 year, and in 2 years, and in 3 years, by about 4 years, I suspect the Reverend is going to ask you to come up and maybe play a song at Christmas or at Easter. Because in about 4 years of practice, you will be, here's a big word, there's an English learner here, proficient. Do you know the meaning of the word proficient? Do you know the meaning of the word proficient? No, that's a good word. Who knows the meaning of the word proficient? How old are you? 9. What's a good 9-year-old word? You'll get good at it. Preachers love to use big words, confuse everybody so they'll keep getting paychecks. So they'll understand that the minister knows something that they don't. But usually, fancy words can be turned into simple words. Have you ever seen one of these? What does it appear to be? A box. What are boxes for? Storage. Putting things in. That's a pretty big word, right? Storage for putting things in. And what do you suppose it is? This is a little box. Can you read what it says? We cannot keep from singing. I don't know if you folks know it, but not so long ago, the church commissioned some people and they worked on it and wrote this long poem. I don't know how many pages long, it's a very long poem. And I'm very grateful because they sent that poem to a factory in China, and in China they took that poem and made it into this. You get all kinds of interesting things you did from China. But this is fun because we cannot keep from singing. And then it says, we sing of the Creator. Oh, here's another one. Related and all creation is good. So this little toy helps us to tell the story about what we believe. So that's about creation. We believe that nature is a gift from God, a place for us to be happy and to grow, etc. Now it opens up and it says something else again. We sing of God the Spirit and moving in the human heart. So the same God who made everything is the God who's inside of us. And then we can go like, how do we go next? We go like this. Start all over again. Practice makes perfect. And I have not been practicing very long. We sing of God's mission. So in other words, God made everything, God is inside of us, and God wants to get something done. And then it goes back, and it ends up right back where it was. Anyway, what I want to say, just like the violin, I was going to call it a fiddle. What do you call it, a violin or a fiddle? What's the difference between a violin and a fiddle? A violin usually is played like Lope was at the symphony last night, and violins are usually very precise. But fiddlers are a little bit more hee-haw. Right? Would you like to be a violinist or a fiddler? Violinist. But maybe on Saturday night you can fiddle a bit. So what I'm going to do is give you this as a gift. I'm glad there's only one of you here today. But with every gift we get from God, it's also a responsibility. about God's love. And if you discover after a while that it's just sitting on the shelf, maybe you could give it to somebody else who might like to be a storyteller. Okay? Thank you for helping me, Ethan. Welcome. I don't usually like to give away my toys. But I'm learning. Now we're going to sing again. And we're just going to chord through this one as well. It's a song you probably all know. It's called I Have Decided to Follow Jesus. I'm playing the key of C. I don't know if you can chord along or not. And we've got a drummer there. So this is a simple song about deciding to follow Jesus. Deciding to practice the way of God in life. Good? I have decided to follow Jesus. Practice. If we did this every day, we would get so smooth, and they'd be saying, where can we get tickets to hear these people sing? Right? That's the way to go. Deciding to follow Jesus is deciding to live a life of practice and practicing those things that God shows to us so that we can bring blessings into all of our lives.